Hi everyone, Mike Freedman from AI Technology and Design, back here with another day of technology in our 30 Days of Technology series. Today we're going to be talking about something in the home we already have. It's just gotten smarter. And of course I'm talking about the stove, so we're talking about smart stoves. So one of the questions I get on a pretty frequent basis, before we even get to should I buy a smart stove, and spoiler alert, yes you should, is what is a smart stove? So I want to break it down. You already have a stove and oven in your house most likely, so it's not that different from what you're used to using, except it has one little feature that your current stove doesn't have, and that is wireless connectivity, either with Bluetooth or Wi-Fi or both. And the advantages of this are numerous. So we're going to talk about some of those things in a few minutes, but that's really the biggest difference. You have the ability to take the controls that are on your stove and oven now and put them in your pocket by having an app for your phone. Or even the ability to use voice control. Alexa, preheat the oven to 400 degrees. Or telling the app, hey, preheat the oven because I'm getting home from work tonight at 5:30 and I want it ready to go so I can just pop that roaster chicken in there. Whatever you want to do, you can now do with a smart stove. And that's why they're so cool, and that's why they're such a big part of a connected home. All right, so now we have a pretty good idea of what a smart stove is. Let's talk about some of the features that are packed into a smart stove that differentiate it from a different stove and why some of these features might be a benefit to you. As we talked about initially, the ability to do things like control it remotely is huge. You can start it on your way home from work. You can be lying in bed and starting it, and in the morning before you bake your cinnamon buns for the kids, whatever you want to do. That is really, really big. And you could even be at the grocery store buying something and realize, hey, you know what? I'm at that part of my cook where I actually have to activate a higher temperature to finish it. So I'm going from 250 to say 400 degrees. You can be in line at the produce section going, changing your oven. So that's really, really cool. The next is the ability to set automatic functions, and there's all sorts of different automatic functions. You can tell it at night you want to clean it in the middle of the night, as an example, or preheat it every morning at a certain time. Whatever you want to do, these can all be easily automated using either the app or voice control or anything else. And on that subject, the ability to use voice control with a smart stove and oven is huge, because the ability to talk to your house is crucial. And being able to talk to one more important part of your house, like your oven and stove, which is a very frequently used piece of equipment, is massive. Alexa, turn on the oven. Hey Google, turn on the burner of the stove and start heating up my chili. Whatever you want to tell it to do, you can do that. And the last thing I think from a feature perspective is when you activate the smart stove, it can be triggered to activate other things. And I'll give you a really good example. Indoor air quality is something very, very, very important, and you're going to hear a lot more conversation about air quality moving forward, because as we learn more about the impact of air in our homes and therefore our health, there's going to just naturally be more conversation. So if you can put your right hand up and say, with total honesty, every time I cook on the stove, I turn on my hood fan, fine, you don't really need this feature, but most people do not. So the ability to turn on a hood fan and automatically increase indoor air quality without even thinking about it is really key to what smart technology is all about. It takes all of the work out of the way for you and ensures that whether you're cooking, the kids are cooking, or anyone else is cooking, the quality inside your house of air is great. And let me give you a good example from my life as to why this is really, really useful. The main thing is this: my kids will start cooking something and they will react to a lot of smoke in the kitchen because they've got something on the element or something on the burner. They cooked it too hot. They're kids. They're still learning. It happens. Happens to me, and I've been doing this for years. So we react. We turn on the hood fan. As a result, of doing something instead of just automatically turning it on and being proactive. So first of all, your house isn't going to get all smoky, and second of all, the air quality in your home is going to maintain consistently higher levels of quality. And that's really important for everyone, but especially if you have breathing problems or asthma or anything like that, this is really important stuff for you. So this is one of the things that will really help you tilt the balance in your favor when it comes to indoor air quality. So let's talk about some of the reasons why you want a smart oven or smart stove in your next kitchen or your current kitchen if you're looking to upgrade. There's a bunch of reasons. I'm going to go through them with you right now. The first is flexibility. As we talked about, you don't have to be in the kitchen to start using this oven and all the features of it. So you get a lot more flexibility and you're no longer tethered to a certain part of your house or even your house itself. You can be all over the place and make it work. The next thing has to do with convenience. Now, every time we go to bake something in our household, there's two parts to it. There's putting all our stuff together to make what we're going to make, and second is preheating the oven. Now, often we don't think to do that until just before we're ready to pop it in the oven. So we end up waiting, and it just takes longer to get to where we need to go as far as preparation. What I like about it is we can program it, and I was saying earlier, right? Maybe you make cinnamon buns for your kids every Saturday morning. You can program it to preheat overnight while you're still in bed, so when you wake up in the morning, you can just pop them in the oven for 15 minutes and it's good as done. Or as another example, if you're driving home from work, you can just set the oven to preheat as you're driving home from work, and then you can just pop your stuff in the oven and go. And think about how busy our lifestyles are and how much we have happening at any given moment. Simply not having to wait 15 or 20 minutes for an oven to preheat is a massive amount of time back that it's better spent doing a lot of other things. This next one is really, really important. So I want to spend a couple seconds and really drill down. Safety. Safety in the home trumps everything else. Convenience, all of that other stuff. If you're not safe, none of those other things matters. Now, here's what I like about these products. If something is happening, you will get alerts from your phone. It will tell you a burner's too hot or the oven's too hot or any number of other things that can happen which will create worse problems later. Let me give you a really great example. Have you ever had a situation where you've turned on the oven or the stove, the phones rang or the bells rang or something like that, somebody's at your front door, and you've forgotten about it and walked away? It happens to all of us. So there are actually some stoves that have sensors that can alert us as to whether or not there's a pot or an item on the element. And if after a certain amount of time there isn't anything on that element, it'll actually shut it off before it does something bad like burns your house down. If you take away nothing else from this conversation, that's the biggest one. Now, there are some other stuff that isn't as scary, and I want to make sure you're aware of that as well. First of all, it means greater flexibility for you. So you can put the bread in the oven and let it rise at a certain temperature and then have it start to bake without you having to go there. So I give a great example of putting bread in the oven to rise for several hours. And say you put it in at 3 and it has to rise for an hour. You can set a timer on the stove to have it come on at 4 o'clock to bake that bread perfectly. So again, it's just flexibility as a result of greater control. That's a big deal for a lot of people, especially those of us who are really busy. And the other part is that with the intelligence of a smart stove, you have a lot greater precision and control, and you can create different cooking cycles in the oven. Like my oven, which is a dumb old-fashioned oven, has 2 cycles in the oven, broil or bake. There are additional ones that are available, and having that level of control allows you to really customize your stove based on what you're trying to do. And as I talked about earlier, indoor air quality is huge, something we all need to be talking about, so you can do things like make sure the hood fan's always on when you're cooking. Because it's not just the smoke from the oil and the food that you're cooking. If you have natural gas in your home and burning it, you're creating exhaust or fumes as a result. Now, on their own, they're pretty safe, but anyone who knows about indoor air quality says you want to ventilate that area. You want to make sure you've got plenty of fresh air because there are things like carbon monoxide that could potentially happen when you're burning any type of fuel. So by having that indoor air quality improved by turning on your fan, you don't even have to think about having a healthier home. The stove does it for you. All right, I touched on it briefly when I talked about safety, but I want to talk to you a little bit more specifically about safety with these stoves and how they work to keep you and your family safe. Now, I talked about the issue of someone getting distracted while something was cooking. And that happened to me when I was a kid. We rented our house out for a year, and the people we rented to were doing some frying of some sort, and the phone rang and he walked away. And as a result, things got too hot and a massive fire started. Had such thing as a smart stove been conceived or invented, we're talking about the mid-80s here, that wouldn't have been an issue because the stove would have actually recognized how hot that element was getting and how hot the items in the element is getting and automatically shut itself down. So if you're like me and you got kids in the house who can get distracted easily, this is something that's a no-brainer. And the other thing, as I said, is they will actually sense whether there's something on the burner or not as well. So you don't have to worry about turning on your burner and walking out and leaving it on and burning down your house. They can tell if the burners are overheating. And they can even tell whether you're cooking something or simmering something on your stovetop and actually adjust the heat output as a result. So no more putting your burner on low and still scorching everything on the bottom of your soup pot. It'll actually change itself as a result. These are minor things, but they're major things in the context of keeping you and your family safe. I believe very, very strongly in the concept of something called aging in place. That is empowering people to stay in their home for longer. We're not shipping them off, we're keeping them in their home for longer. We know it's better for their mental health, we know it's better for everything. So, unfortunately, we have a challenge in that some people as they age start to experience things like early onset dementia and stuff like that. So forgetfulness is an issue for all of us, but it can be an even bigger issue for that demographic. One of the ways we can help people stay in their homes longer is by making sure that the time they spend in their home is safe. Now, you don't want to put wrapper on everything and put, say, like locks on everything, right? We're not trying to make these people feel like children. We want to empower them to continue to live their lives to the fullest possible capacity that they can. So if we're worried about things like that, smart stoves are really great because you don't have to worry about people keeping burners on or burning down their house or anything else. And that's what smart technology does. Smart locks, smart security, smart lights, and smart stoves as well. So if you have a family member that you love, that you want to talk to about aging in place, looking at a smart stove might make it easier for them and take a little bit of the worry away for you as well.